G'day traders, we're going to wrap up of Wednesday the 18th of July. So on the daily chart, here's the candle here we're looking at here. So definitely the buyers getting some real momentum and some speed now on the upside. So a couple of days back we bounced off this this key level on the daily chart here, and that's where they really getting some drive from. The next level which they're trying to head up towards is up here at 1375, so it'll be interesting. Keep an eye on that and see if it can get there in the next couple of days, or whether it's going to have a bit of a potentially a pullback before trying to go again. But this today was very much influenced by some news to start off with. I think there was some news out of the US at 10 o'clock which really sent this markets on the upside, and then from there it got a real continuation, so it meant for a slow morning. But then the afternoon kind of settled down, and the sellers gained back a little bit of control, and there's certainly some opportunities in the afternoon, but we'll go through it. So from here we started breaking up. Like, there was a bit of a range or a bit of a channel early on here, and 1355 was a bit of a key level, so all the markets started breaking up through that quite significantly. So, and what's potentially is a good buy, and some of the these set up quite often is if you get all this momentum on the upside like this, or the downside, whichever way you're looking, it works both ways. But in this case, all the momentum on the upside, all the markets going, just pop back to the top of that range and then go again. Quite often we'll do that. It's a good opportunity to get on a trend early, as long as you got confirmation of the direction. It's not a false move, and to get that confirmation, momentum is one thing, and all the other markets going the same way. From there we've pushed up quite significantly higher really quickly. This area here we started to pull back again. Once the market's getting all this momentum up like this and it's having quite a shallow pullback, chances are it's going to go higher. It's done all this work and it's definitely got momentum and eyes on going higher. So an area through here is potentially opportunities to buy, but 1 minute chart will break it down and show it a little bit better there. From there we've had another little bit of a pullback and got a continuation, and eventually we pushed up higher, and as we're coming into lunch, or this is lunch here, we basically topped out. So a very sideways movement here, really hard to gauge on what it wants to do, but knowing that something that is going to happen as far as the market can either go higher, it's definitely got levels up here like we showed on the daily charts that go to, or it's going to get some sort of change in direction, which you find will happen most days. Most cash markets you get multiple directional moves, which is good for day trading, and rarely do you just get one direction where it just keeps on going up, or down for that matter, in the same direction. So this one here we started really to get a bit of a breakdown. It's popped up. This 5 minute fade has worked really well, and that's where the market's pushed lower again. As far as this area here, from a specific setup point of view, yes, it's everything's working in its favor. The moving average is pointing down. It's like push down, pop up. There's actually a bit of a resistance level here at 1368.50 as well, and a great area for it to launch down. The only problem I have with the area, and this is from a bit of an overall perspective, is that it's still in an area like the momentum. So this is, when you think of a 5 minute fade, what you're looking for is momentum with the new trade, or sorry, the new trend. Okay, and for me at this stage here, it still hasn't really gained momentum. If it's down here and bouncing back from here, maybe that's a different case. But here, it's still an area where it could potentially just grip it and go higher from. So you really got to, with yourself, there's no problem taking this trade right here, but you want to be very clear in your own trading plans is exactly how you approach these situations. If you take the setup purely as it is, yeah, of course, take it. If you're following price action a little bit more, then maybe it's a time to wait. For myself, I was just waiting for a little bit more confirmation, and then this area here, when this started to break in, and actually all the other markets really started to break down, that's when it looked good to go and look for it, and then it popped back in. I'll show you on the 1 minute chart, and there's a bit of an entry here at 1368 as well that could have potentially worked out with a bit more confirmation this downside. And then of course that continued with a bit of what we call a directional trade here, or a new direction forming. So the market's pushed down, it's popped up, and then it's breaking this bit of a pivot here, and all the other markets, the Russell especially, was well and truly broken this point. What happened here, once the ES was breaking, or this predictive crossing down, the Russell had actually broken once, come back a bit, and it was actually breaking a second time and was sitting right down here somewhere. So when you got all the other markets, especially the Russell, really dragging an area down like that, you can be quite confident that an area like this is going to push down a few points. From there we've bottomed out, and that's kind of where the sellers had their greatest influence there. We started pushing back up, and you can see we started then getting a bit of a bounce. So this is confirmation that the buyers were still around, and even though the sellers were had a bit of a go there. The buyers quickly came back, and you can see they pushed up here, and then come back, and a couple of times have bounced off the 66.50, which kind of goes right through the market. You can see we bounced off it there, pushed through it, but then once it got back above it, again it uses it as a support and really consolidates that this is a strong support resistance area within the market. Okay, so over the 1 minute chart, have a little bit of a closer look. Here's a couple of power fades on the upside. As far as taking these, they're all based right around news time. I think getting on early off some sort of PowerPoint back here is certainly an option. As to whether you take these sort of power fades, it depends on how confident you are. This one wouldn't have worked. It would have come up, entered, come back, and then went through. This one obviously would have worked, but it's around some volatile times when news is coming out. So there's certainly an aggressive approach. Eventually it's pushed up. The yellows turn this market around there, and eventually it's bounced off the purple. For me, a bit of an area was about 63.50. Again, so if you're following price, and 1 minute chart certainly shows it better, you can see we've come up, bounced off 63.50, come up, then we've kind of hovered around this area here again, come back underneath it, got down, bounced, pushed down off it. There's no confirmation or consolidation on the downside there. It's turned around. Then we've got this thrust right up through this area here. Okay, and all the other marks started pushing up here. So, once it starts pushing through there, looking to buy off 63.50 or something around that area, and as all the other marks are looking to push higher, is an area that I personally look for. That's very much based on price action. So, if you're looking for specific things, trading in the zone talks a lot about it. When you open your eyes to specific areas, then you'll start to see things. So, depends on whether you're looking at price action or indicators. But again, it's up to the individual. Just be very clear on how you approach trading areas, and really focus and develop that sort of area of your trading repertoire. Okay, but if you're looking for key levels and key price structures, certainly 63.50, 64 area was a zone that the market was prepared to go from once we kind of confirmed that they're ready to go. From there, we've pushed up higher, up to lunch time here, and then we had this very sideways movement. So really waiting here as to see whether the market wants to, like I said before, go higher or start to come on the downside. So when we see all the other markets starting to push down, so it's through here the Russell really started breaking. So by the time the ES got down here, the Russell had already dropped down another level or two. It was getting down through some support levels. So when you see that sort of thing, do expect some sellers to come in for a bit. Like I said before, you don't normally get just one directional day. So the fact there's all this momentum on the upside, there's going to be a bit of a swing at some stage. Doesn't mean the sellers are going to take control, which we do see later on. The buyers come back. But there's definitely a case for sellers to come, because on the daily charts, it's not like there's a significant area being broken yet. When you're breaking a significant area, yes, that's the type of days we'll just go in one direction. But while we're sitting within a range, you're going to get buyers and sellers, most days. So we formed a bit of a pivot here, popped up, and then started breaking down through this area here. And this is an area where it potentially could keep going. So this power fade here, I think definitely one to look at. The entry was sitting there one tick below once we broke this base here, and eventually would have went 8-10 ticks. So that power fade there worked, but based on setup and based on price action, real momentum change there. But you can see then that's quickly changed, quickly swung around back to the upside. We've pushed back up. I think that there's two things that can happen in this area. We've pushed down like this, so all the other marks breaking down. As we're coming back up here, expect to possibly see the S area hold at 66.50. Okay, like we said, so support and resistance. So this is a strong support resistance area. Expect that the market could possibly hold this down. So 66.50, 13.67 sort of area was potentially a sell. Now, if that doesn't hold and it pushes through that, and you can see it's clearly pushed through it, well then obviously there's no, and you think of this from perspective of what other traders are doing, there's no sellers there. So what happens at that level now? It becomes a buyer's level. So the market's pushed up through it, that the sellers weren't able to hold it, and now that what was resistance or support over here now becomes resistance, now becomes support again, and it's bounced off it a couple of times just to finish the day. Anyway, that's a wrap up for Wednesday, and we'll speak to you guys Thursday.